Fit for Life Radio, episode number 97. It's our first episode this fall. Recording on the second day of fall.
And it's raining. It's like pure nap time weather today. Mm-hmm. Rain all day.
Where it's really dark, even though it's like 7, 8 a.m. But it's 85 degrees and muggy.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like fall.
Hey, it's supposed to drop tomorrow. 72 degrees.
Take out those
As the high, baby.
You taking out those blue jeans?
You know it. I'm ready.
Laying out a little lightweight sweater.
Little cardigan.
What are the... that's like the button-up ones,
Yeah.
right? Hey, shawl collar.
I'm in.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like college professor.
Let's do it. Nah. You can't do that.
I tried one.
You can't do it in Newport News,
They
man.
had one at Target. Like last
It's
fall.
the wrong city for that.
I put it on.
Nah.
I couldn't take myself serious. It was kind of cozy.
I mean, yeah.
Like I could wear this around the house. I don't think I'd be brave enough to wear it anywhere.
Put on some slacks in your...
Yeah.
Nah.
Shawl collar.
Shawl collar.
You think I could go anywhere in it without anyone saying anything?
Nah, you get a lot of looks. For sure.
Oh. All right. Today's episode, alcohol and health. We are...
This is probably going to make some people not happy, but it's okay.
Going to do a little research review. So the PN Academy Research Insider had a little issue on alcohol and health. And yeah, we just want to go over it, educate.
We're going to deep dive.
We've kind of touched on it before. I'll start off by saying, and knowing all this and, you know, going through the deep dive, I still drink alcohol.
Yeah.
As we get into it, I'll say actually not moderately.
No.
Which we'll go into what that even means, but socially, you know, but it could end up being, if I'm going to the beach or going to do something social, have a couple drinks, but that could happen. It could end up happening 3 weekends in a row, and then it could also
not happen for 9 months.
For 3 months, 9 months, yes. So on average, I am not even a moderate drinker. Pretty light.
We're the same. Like I could probably count on my hand, like the number of times we really drink per year.
Yeah, and we don't drink by ourselves or just to
same.
You know, as a habit to relax or anything like that. Because ultimately, I know for me, I sleep worse, and you know,
messes everything up.
Those are the main reasons, and I don't enjoy it enough. So if I'm going to have 400 calories, I'd rather have
food,
basically 1,000 other things.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But I do enjoy, you know, drinking and socially, and you get a little buzz, and it's probably habit too from college. You know, that's which is a whole nother episode. But
behavior,
societal norms of you have to do this, you know, and it's you go to college, that's what you do, and it becomes a lifestyle habit. And then it's just...
Yeah, when you get together with your friends, you drink, which is interesting.
Yeah, and then
I do the same
sometimes
thing.
You develop a habit, though, where you only... you don't hang out with people without alcohol being involved.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing to look at, which is, I'll say this, everyone we do hang out with, there's times where we, all don't drink at all and do other stuff, so... it's something to think about if you're like, man, I do have to drink every time I hang out socially or with certain people, and take that for what it is. But we won't. That's more the social,
that's like social and behavior
stuff. We're going to dig in on
just the health.
Yep, this research review, which basically this is a good way I like when different topics do have tons of research and studies done, but then you get to take the breadth.
Of all of them, like a meta review of the review or of the research.
Because you never want one study to come out and
because we know that one study can say one thing and one study can say the opposite. But if you have 45 studies that say one thing and then 2 that say the opposite, well, it's clear where the consensus lies. On the one side with 45 in its favor. So it's a really dependable way to do it, and it's kind of how science works. It's I'll say ever changing because we always find out new stuff, but as you accumulate, knowledge and try things and research it, like you do come to a consensus over time. It just takes time.
Yeah. And before we dive into it, I guess we'll kind of let's just tell everyone we'll tell you where this is ending up. So if you just kind of want to know.
Do you want the cliff notes?
Some people get very, with alcohol, because I've been coaching people for 16 years, and it's a topic that's very, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but, people get very squeamish around it, and they don't want to hear, certain things or be told what to do or what not to do or this. But ultimately, I like where it's headed, which ultimately I feel comfortable saying, and this is kind of how it is in our lives. For one, it's not simple and clear cut.
No.
But ultimately, the best way to probably frame it and look at it is that alcohol can be part of a healthy lifestyle. But just don't think that alcohol is like the reason
that your lifestyle
is healthy, or attributing any healthy aspect to it. But that doesn't mean that it's bad and that you can't partake in it. It's just being realistic about it, right? That's the best way to go about it. So, because now I think the biggest issue in all this is you have to understand how much money is involved with alcohol, these companies, and marketing, right?
Ton.
So one of the greatest things they've done is market wine because it's
heart healthy.
Yeah, polyphenols and stuff from the grapes. But even though that is, we think there might be health benefits, but we don't really know. Yeah. And again, you can get those benefits from just
the
grapes and other things without the negatives. Because again, alcohol is mostly
a toxin.
Yeah, or it is a toxin, and it's basically comes with negatives. So, and then most of the studies that come out positive are normally funded by alcohol companies.
Big alcohol.
You can see where that can be an issue. But yeah, so let's start with first thing you want to rule out is obviously heavy drinking. There's not going to be no benefits.
Yeah, there's
right?
no benefits
now,
to that.
Where the people are like, oh, moderate drinking. So what is moderation? What then? And obviously anything more than what's labeled as moderate is going to be
heavy,
no bueno.
Yeah.
And so moderate drinking is moderate alcohol consumption is typically defined as 1 to 2 drinks per day. One drink varies between studies. So in the PN study review, they kind of have to generalize a little, but in general, and the Mayo Clinic specifically defines one drink as 12 ounces of beer, that's 5% alcohol, 12 ounces or 5 ounces of wine, that's 12% alcohol, or 1.5 fluid ounces of liquor, that's 80 proof. But one thing to realize is it's not necessarily the drink size that relates to how much alcohol is actually in the beverage. It's the amount of alcohol. And so technically one drink is equal to 14 grams of alcohol. But that's where you have to remember something like beer, average beer is 5% alcohol. But if you're drinking like a double
Those
IPA.
Heavies, man. That's 2 beers. Well, yeah, 2 servings of alcohol in one.
You could have a 12-ounce beer, that's 5% alcohol, and a 12-ounce beer that's 10% alcohol. So technically, that's 2 drinks.
Yeah. And then another thing to consider is things like wine. Mm-hmm. Like what a real serving is and how many people actually only have one of that serving. Yep. One serving of wine is 150 milliliters, which is not a lot. Mm-hmm. Like that's not a lot of liquid, man.
And it starts to also, another thing that plays a role is your body size.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If you're a 130-pound female or a 230-pound male, it technically would be
your needs are going to be different
to your
too.
Body size. So, but in general, if you're just thinking 1 to 2 drinks a day,
yeah, like we can keep it basic like that.
So anything more than that, it's basically not even in the argument.
Yep.
Right. Then you may also be thinking, well, what about if I don't drink daily and I just kind of save up for the weekend
and go ham?
1 to 2 drinks a day. would be 7 to 14 drinks in a week. So yeah, basically then you just crush that on a Saturday night.
Crush a 12er.
That's binge drinking, right? And that would fall in the no category as far as alcohol and health, right? It just doesn't work that way because you're getting all that alcohol at once, which has issues, obviously even more issues because of, the amount of alcohol you're consuming in that short time frame.
Yeah, because that big rush of alcohol definitely carries a lot of negatives to it. There's no real net positive other than you're having a good time. All the negatives, and there is more of a risk of things happening as right afterwards too. So
yeah, it would be classified as heavy drinking.
Even though it's once a week.
Yep. And super specific, some research suggests that one heavy drinking episode might increase the risk of heart attack and stroke
exactly
in the hours immediately after. And then obviously there's, alcohol abuse and alcoholism, which defines the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism defines binge drinking as a pattern of alcohol intake that raises blood alcohol concentration to 0.08%.
Damn, that legal limit. I feel like it doesn't take me a lot to get there.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is they heavy drink daily. Again, you could be a heavy pourer, and technically, you're getting into alcoholism ranges.
Yeah,
right?
Think about it. If you have a glass or a bottle of wine a night, that's whether people want to talk about it or not, that's a problem.
It's alcoholism.
Yeah,
according to the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism.
Absolutely.
And so that's again where binge drinking is going to fall into. So again, I'm not even saying you can't make that fit into an overall healthy lifestyle, but understand it's a trade-off, Yeah,
and there are more risks with that than there are the moderation, which also carries risks.
It probably shouldn't be something you do all the time.
Nah, especially as you get older.
All right, so now we've kind of defined heavy drinking. So we know moderate drinking is 1 to 2 drinks, and that's not necessarily a certain amount per se. It really varies on the alcohol content.
The vessel.
But now for the most part, 1 to 2 drinks, 1 can of beer, 1 glass of wine, that's 5 ounces, a shot. Now with that, there's some research that alcohol might decrease the risk of cardiovascular disease. So that's kind of the main thing that a lot of marketing and things will kind of stand on.
Yeah, it's good for your heart health.
The thing is, so looking now again, with this research review where they look at all these research reviews, for the most part,
there's 2 benefits.
Yeah, and they're not even really sure if it is
or how it happens. If it even does happen.
Potential benefits. And one thing is the kind of alcohol you drink probably doesn't matter.
Nah, it's just alcohol.
If there are these benefits. So whether it's red wine or dark beer or, versus light beer or red wine versus white wine, it just probably doesn't matter.
Yep.
Now, some people will talk about, like we mentioned earlier, the polyphenols in red wine. But for the most part in the research review, they just don't think it's a likely explanation for, any, benefit of lowering risk of cardiovascular disease from moderate alcohol consumption. And side note, the polyphenols come from the grapes. You can just eat grapes if, that's something you're after. Now, that would be the maybe benefit of moderate drinking. So again, lowering
still up in the air.
Cardiovascular risk. They're not sure why. Probably does not connect to the type of alcohol. One thing I could see, and just I can't remember. We'll do if we get into this. But I could see maybe where and one reason it could be beneficial. And again, this is going to depend on how you respond to alcohol. But yeah, if it relaxes you. There's going to be probably benefits.
That's my theory too.
Bringing your heart rate down and being relaxed and being able to, be in that state.
And the benefits of just like being social and having a good time, like that isn't without merit. So, if that accompanies your alcohol consumption and that lowering of stress, like it will have heart benefits because your stress is lower. And, because of that, you're not wired.
Yep. Noun, moving on in the review, the doubts. So there's basically, they talk about how there's plenty of doubts. The bottom line, they say there may be cardiovascular benefits to moderate drinking, but the evidence is far from conclusive. Either way, drinking for heart health is probably misguided at best.
Yeah.
And then for the case they make against moderate drinking, it talks about how even small amounts consumed regularly may be problematic for some people. And this is one thing I think a lot of people overlook is all the problems alcohol causes, right? With your organs, internal organs, with people then make bad decisions and you get in cars and drive and there's alcoholic injuries and deaths from accidents, drinking too much and alcohol poisoning. Like these are all legit
problems,
right?
And we all have been affected by it in some way, I guarantee you. So like you can't ignore that at all.
Especially if you're like, oh, I'm drinking for my heart health. And it's like, hey, whoa, like there may be minimal, moderate cardiovascular benefits, but then it's like if you're crushing your liver or, of the other more acute injuries from like car wrecks and stuff like that, it's obviously.
Yeah, that benefit is not outweighing the risks at all.
So that has to be considered. And then also some people, just how they genetically respond to alcohol. Sometimes people get very angry or psychoactive, toxic type components. And then another concern is cancer risk. And that's probably a bigger one than people realize. You don't hear it a lot because, again, there's lots of money involved that prevents maybe the media from... Remember, these TV stations, media companies, well, what is one of the most common advertisements you hear?
Bud Light, baby.
Okay, and that's how these media companies make money and stay in business as advertisers. So if you alienate
probably a third of your advertising,
Budweiser doesn't want to advertise when there was just a segment on how alcohol increases
your cancer risk.
Which there was a study, 2009, National Cancer Institute estimates that 3 to 5% of all cancer deaths in the U.S. are alcohol related.
That's actually really higher than I expected it to be. 3 to 5% is a lot.
And in general, it scales, right? The more alcohol you drink, the higher your risk of developing cancer.
Which, I mean, if we think about it, take a step back, it's literally a toxin to our body and we, can process it, whatever. But it's like something that is really in no way good for us, despite us being able to manage it, probably after years of drinking it. But straight up, it's just not good for you.
And they also suggest that any level of regular alcohol consumption is associated with an increased risk of oral.
I'm ready for this one.
Nah, man.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provinggrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out. If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop, mixed in water, once a day, and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
You got it.
Pharyngeal, esophageal, liver, and female breast cancer. So like all these different types of cancer are,
And
you
this
know,
was
associated.
And this was compared to non-drinkers. So there's two groups. And with those, same as before, the risk of each cancer increased as people's alcohol intake increased. So again, probably more credence to make not heavy drinking, right? And if you do, it shouldn't be all the time.
I think I didn't even notice this, but the colorectal cancer, which is a big one for, especially for men and, you know, middle age, like, are known as an alcohol-related cancer. And I didn't know that that was such a strong association. So just, you know, something to think about.
And let's see. Well, now, and one thing to understand with like the risk is, and this is where studies, if something says there's a 50% increase in risk,
it can sound real scary.
Yeah, but it's relative risk. So the example they use here is, for example, according to the study results, moderate drinkers had a 44% greater risk of developing laryngeal cancer compared to non-drinkers. So that sounds awful, right? But again, it's important to remember it's relative risk. So to get the relative risk of 44%, the scientists first calculated the chance that a moderate drinker would get cancer. Then they divided that number by the chance a non-drinker would get the cancer. So to put that 44% risk into context, you need to have an idea of absolute risk. The absolute risk is very low. So for that, the example they use is for developing larynx cancer. It's a low absolute risk. But let's say we've established that if you're a moderate drinker, that risk goes up to 44%. But a 44% increase in relative risk would take their chances from 1 in 190 to 1.4 in 190.
So really not as big of a jump as it scares you to think.
0.2% increase, right?
Exactly.
Now, for the individual, you like, okay.
There's always going to be a variation in that.
It may not seem that significant, but on a population level,
is a lot.
It can be very, very significant. So,
and then one thing to remember with that is kind of important is that that's only one single factor. And there are a lot of other things that do contribute to that as well.
Yeah.
You know, like your diet, your activity, your stress levels, and that can change that percentage a lot.
Yeah, so you have to decide, for yourself, you're like, oh, 1% risk increase, right? But now that as far as government, like noticing these things. So if the U.S. population, say is half men, and they were, the example we used was that cancer with men, the 1%. So if we know half the U.S. population is half men, having 1% more of those men, which is around 1.6 million, end up with that type of cancer is a big deal. Because what's the math on that, Will? 1% of 1.6 million.
1%. It's like 160,000. Damn, you're asking me to do math on the fly. 1.6. 16,000.
Yeah. So that
Let's hope that's right.
Let's see. I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that's a lot of people, right? So again, that's where all this is going to come down to. Like, it depends, right? What is your, what's the rest of your lifestyle? Is the rest of your lifestyle risky, right? That's why I personally have no problem drinking some, even though knowing that some probably could increase risk at a small percentage. But that's life in general, right?
I mean, there's so many things that technically
we could break
do that
down with driving your car. So that's what people have to remember. I mean, you see it a lot now with coronavirus stuff, right? So it's with everything. There's really every decision we do is subconsciously gauging our relative risk.
Yeah,
and if it's
constantly.
I don't want this to be like never drink and this is frightful, but at the same time,
just realize it is a little more risky.
It shouldn't get a free pass. Yeah. Now, where does this kind of and one thing to touch on, which I think is the biggest thing too, is like Will mentioned, remember it's a toxin. There's a lot of organ damage that happens to people, over time that alcohol probably contributes to, especially the liver, because alcohol is filtered, processed through the liver. So obviously consuming a lot of alcohol puts a lot of stress and work on the liver. It doesn't do any good. Now, again, where does that leave things? Also, a lot of people would probably be interested in this. So this was a note in the research review: breast cancer and alcohol. So it's kind of obvious a lot of times for people to see the connection of alcohol to oral, throat, liver, and even colon cancer. But female breast cancer, most people, it's a weird connection, right? The researchers believe that part of the risk may be related to folate and B vitamin that helps build DNA and is essential for cell division. What happens is alcohol blocks the absorption of folate, and it's possible that this may contribute to cancer risk. So that's why, and they're noticing more and more that connection to breast cancer, alcohol and breast cancer. It's actually been around for a while, but again, you don't hear about it.
Yep.
But it's pretty strong and pretty prevalent. And again, that's kind of why they think they're seeing it, is that has to do with folate, alcohol blocking the absorption. And that's the thing, right? The human body is so complicated, about all that
so much
the stuff that goes
on
on with micronutrients and nutrients and all this.
And a lot of stuff that works together but doesn't really work very well on its own, and things that get blocked by certain substances. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's not clear cut at all.
So, and I think a great takeaway is just kind of be honest in general with the fact that you probably don't need alcohol for any health benefits.
No.
Like any maybe possible health benefits from alcohol you can get from other places.
Without the risk involved.
Yeah. So at the same time, it's not like there's a level of risk, right, to be gauged.
Yeah.
And you can have a healthy lifestyle that includes alcohol.
For sure.
Right?
But it won't make you healthy.
Exactly.
Like we said in the beginning.
And it seems to scale, the risks seem to scale up
as you drink more
with the volume consumption of alcohol. So again, more moderate drinking will be better, not because it has direct health benefits, but simply because you're consuming less.
Yeah,
Right. So it's finding that balance,
Yeah.
And again, if it relaxes you, that's probably, and again, this was not part of the research. This is just our observational,
this is our speculation too.
Speculation thoughts. Then that could be helpful, right? Now, the problem is drinking it close to bed and at night. Yeah, it may help you feel relaxed, but
it disrupts your
point blank.
sleep.
It's going to disrupt your sleep.
Straight up.
Even though you feel sleepier, you're not going to be able to get in as deep of sleep, get as restorative sleep. If that becomes like a nightly habit, so again, now it's a consistent thing, you are getting poor.
Then you have
quality.
chronic bad sleep.
Yeah.
Which we know has a cascading effect on your day, and we've covered the circadian rhythm, previously on a podcast and things like that. So that has a very negative health effect when you're not getting good sleep.
Yeah, and if you want to avoid that, you probably want to avoid alcohol up to about 4 hours before your bedtime.
Yeah, so just have a drink. Never mind. I was going to say when you get up.
Yeah. Well, solves that problem. But yeah. So, and also remember, there's going to be contradicting studies, right?
Always.
Like tomorrow you could hear a podcast on all the benefits, right? But that's why we like this research review from Precision Nutrition that's like a meta, taking in all of them.
Those are always going to be so good.
If you jump around from one new thing that could have different variables, you're going to be changing all the time. So it's important to kind of take the totality in.
Yeah. And this is I think an important thing for everyone to remember, because we do see so many different studies and new research on the news or online, realizing that one, you need to be able to disseminate that information. A lot of times the headlines are actually different than what the study even said. They completely distort it. So that's an important thing to be able to sift through. And then realizing that one study doesn't make something true. Because there are a lot of reasons. It may have been a bad study. It may have been, paid for by somebody who has an agenda, which is a lot of times what it is, unfortunately, because you need money to do research. So taking in that wide breadth of information is generally going to be the best way to go. So those are good things to look for when you're looking at topics, because that's covered, probably 30 years of research. Mm-hmm. And if after 30 years, they're coming to the same conclusion, there's a good chance that it's probably, at least on the right track.
Yeah. And it goes without saying, if you feel bad and don't like it and hate it,
you don't need
probably
to
don't do it, but if you do enjoy it, it brings joy to your life and you can manage it, then fit it in, right? And there's some people who go their entire life and have zero negative effect from drinking, right? So it's important to realize we're all different and none of this stuff is exact perfect answers, right?
Yeah.
It's again just going to be a collective average and trying to weed through what you think the best decisions are for you. Mm-hmm. I know for me, and again, taking that kind of total overall approach, it has a place as something fun to do that I enjoy with friends and do in moderation. I used to when I was younger, binge drink all the time.
Sure.
I haven't done that in forever. So I normally, that's the great thing about not doing it all the time. You don't need much to get a little buzz.
Oh yeah, man.
And have fun.
Two drinks and I'm having a good time.
Also, if anything, it just makes me sleepy. I don't get angry or mad or combative or anything.
I get real chill.
Again, another thing to take into fact too. This is separate, but it is calories, right? And again, depending on your goals with performance and physique, it's a huge factor.
Yeah, it's going to affect you.
For one, performance-wise, the way it can impact sleep, obviously it can have downstream effects to impacting performance. It can
recovery.
Also affect our decision making, which then can affect what we're eating, what we're not eating, which then can affect body composition goals. So it's definitely makes those things more challenging as well. So that's why, in general, if you are a heavy drinker and you're into fitness, it's just always going to be an obstacle.
It's going to be a juggling act always, and that's just not
when you have more of it. So, which then makes sense, right? It's like, man, well, if for performance and physique, it's more alcohol makes these things harder. It kind of intuitively makes sense that we'll separate for our health probably more alcohol is
Makes
gonna
it harder.
make things harder and
Yeah.
not have good effects on our health. So yeah, really, I would just where do you see yourself on that spectrum of less is better, but I want to have some, and trying to manage that, you know.
Yeah. And you got to, like we kind of always say this, but you got to take an honest look and just be like, is this serving me, or am I just not very good at managing this, or does it not have good effects?
And what's the rest of your life like?
Yeah.
You know, do you eat well in general? Do you get plenty of sleep? Do you enjoy your job? Do you have healthy relationships? You know, if more of those things are in a good place, then you can conceivably
all right.
allow for more alcohol, or definitely probably have it find a place in your life. Are your relationships like unraveling? Are you super stressed with your career and work? Are you know, not taking care of yourself with what you eat and your sleep habits? Then alcohol is probably going to compound in a bad way with all those other factors. So yeah, it's got to look at all the pieces.
Look at all of it. Assess the risk.
And again, so back to the calories a little bit too. When drinking, it's, you know, try to avoid stuff with a ton of added calories.
Yep.
You know? So yeah, all of a sudden, if we're looking at that shot that's like 80 calories, but then you add 700 calories of a sweetened beverage to it, now you're talking about one drink is an 800 calorie wallop.
Which is like, you know, almost half of somebody's daily calories, or could be more than half.
And then all of a sudden you have that alcohol or 2 or 3, and now your inhibitions are down.
Now you're getting nachos.
You're ordering nachos
Big old
to
pretzel.
your house. So then you're
DoorDash.
Then you're eating your nachos. Then you're digging into your Oreos. So now you're deep. You're deep in those calories.
Have you ever used DoorDash?
No,
Me neither.
too cheap.
Yeah. That shit's expensive. I mean, I don't really eat anything that I would need from there anyways,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess
I'd order a pizza.
that would be the only thing, but doesn't, like, pizza delivers anyways, so you wouldn't need to use.
I mean, that was the original DoorDash, I guess.
Yeah.
The only DoorDash was pizza.
Like, I think though, like, sushi would be dangerous to DoorDash. That's the only thing that I like to go out and get.
Here's my other problem with this, right? A lot of food. So like pizza, they have that special bag, right? Because if you go and get pizza and then bring it back after it gets soggy. So same thing, like any other food, I would rather just go
get it fresh.
so I can have it fresh, because it's probably something I normally don't eat, and it's going to taste and be way better.
Yeah, it's like if you go get nuggets and waffle fries from Chick-fil-A, your waffle fries are going to be soggy.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
So like the idea of like DoorDash sushi, I'm like, well, now the sushi is every minute's a minute further away from it being out of its
cold and fresh.
Yeah, out of its refrigerated process,
Yeah.
and handmade, and the rice is going to get, you know, soggier and
Slimy.
warmer. You're just not going to get.
I agree. And let's come back to it. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Like, how much food do you need to really make it worth it? Because it's probably like, what, $5-7 to deliver? Is that right? I have no idea. I feel like an old person, but that sounds about right. When maybe your meal was $9, like, damn, you just spent $16 on nuggets and fries from Chick-fil-A.
And I guess the convenience is you don't have to cook food, right? So, because in my head, I'm like, well, I'll just go to the grocery store and get stuff, and then you have to cook it. But it's such a habit now, and it's not.
Yeah, see, I don't think about that.
It's not a headache.
I like to do it.
It's not. So then when I'm factoring in, okay, it's not really saving me time, because I just have my stuff down and like the meals I eat.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can
mind
eat
cooking
super
them.
fast.
So yeah, for me, then the priority is like, well, I want to eat something I don't feel like cooking or making.
Yeah.
That's a different type of food that I'm not used to handling, and I just want it to taste good. And so now all of a sudden, the main priority for me, which is a delicious meal, well, the delivery
Complicates that.
brings that down. Yeah. So that's my number one thing, and the number two would be, and then I'm paying like $6.
Yeah, I don't know. More power to you if you do it, but it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it makes more sense I feel like, too, in bigger cities.
Yeah.
Where it's so much is closer, you know? So the delivery is going to not be that long. Whereas when you're in a little more area like this, that
I mean,
depends.
shit, if you think about me, like in York County,
everything
that is a little farther.
10, 15 minutes or more.
Yeah. Just don't do it.
All right. DoorDash that alcohol.
Can you do that now?
I think they were doing something during.
I mean, places were doing like to
with
go
cocktails and
alcohol
stuff.
Like Mexican places doing margaritas
That was
to go.
weird to me. I was like,
that was dangerous.
You can just make that at home, like with the blender.
But people do. People love the margs from Plaza.
Yeah.
Load it up. Just don't drink it on the way home.
We have done an episode on that, alcohol and calories and marg. Or if you're really interested specifically in the Mexican restaurant,
We did an episode on that.
let's see here.
Which one is it?
This was one of our most populars. What to eat at Mexican restaurants, episode
Number 69. Nice.
growing up.
Never.
But we specifically touch on margaritas in there.
Yeah. Chick-fil-A was the one before that if you're just interested in, what should I do? Anyways,
All right.
I kind of got off on a tangent.
So there's our review of the research review
Review of the review.
done by Precision Nutrition
What if somebody does a review of our review?
on alcohol and health.
Really get down the rabbit hole.
Let us know what you think. Let us know if it makes you squirmy inside.
Yeah. Were you offended? That's okay.
Or if you're going to change anything
Yeah.
about your...
Did it make you look at your own life a little bit? I hope so. Even if you don't change anything, it's kind of good to take a little look.
Yeah.
Look under the hood.
Just make sure you're not being biased.
Yeah.
It's like when people talk about my football team. I got to make sure, I got to check in that I'm not being biased.
Yep.
All right.
All right. We'll catch you later.
See you guys. Girls.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.